Well, welcome back to the Centre Court Specialised Masters Festival. You will have already got a sense following any of the panels that we've had, this wonderful, wonderful international community that have chosen business school and specialised masters for their next steps, and how it brings them into classrooms with classmates from all over the world. This panel is no exception. I'm really excited to introduce not only individuals that have studied all over the world, but where they've now taken their careers and next steps. So you'll quickly get a sense. We're joined from Singapore. We have André Dogaru. André was with Deloitte after graduating from university. As a consultant with them, and is one of those pioneers that joined INSEAD for that first year of the Masters in Management. And anyone that joined Virginie Fougia, the Global Admissions Director at INSEAD yesterday for the panel, when I asked her about the MIM students within INSEAD, she says, we just love our Masters in Management students. So Andre, I hope that you feel the love out there in Singapore. Now, also late in the evening, you're right. It's great to have you with us. And also late in the evening in China, we have Samuel Mao. Samuel was so enthusiastic to go back to grad school and get his specialized master's degree that he did it twice. He got a master's in management back in 2017, and then just kept going and got a master's in business analytics, right? So I'm sure that serves you well. You're the founder and chief data scientist for Deep Technics. So we look forward to finding out more about your background. Right in the heart of political Europe, the Vlerick Business School, just on the outskirts of Brussels. We're joined by Juliana Mafra, who is now a sales manager working in precious metals. You'll have to tell me which are the precious ones, Juliana. I'm sure that I've missed a few at Unicor. And you graduated from the Masters in Management from Vlerick 10 years ago. Lovely to have you with us and talk about your experience.
Thank you.
And we were talking with the admissions, the Associate Dean at Georgetown, McDonough, about all of the international students and where they go with their careers. So Leanne Alexian is a great example of that. She's joining us from Dubai. She graduated from the Masters in Management last year and is now secured a position as a consultant with PwC, one of the big four. So thank you all four of you. And I guess I've just given a very, very short background, but one thing that's already been clear is that these specialized master's programs bring in people with all sorts of different profiles, all sorts of academic backgrounds, all sorts of community engagement, professional experience. I know that it's pre-experience, but you all managed to pack in a lot before you start your master's program. Andrej, perhaps we could just start with you and a little bit about what you studied and then Deloitte before deciding to head back to business school to do the MIM at INSEAD.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Andre. I'm 22. I come from Bucharest, Romania, and I've done my undergraduate studies in the UK at the University of Warwick, where I studied philosophy, politics, and economics. So I don't come from a business background, which is the case for quite a few of my colleagues as well. So there's a lot of diversity there. Then I decided to do a gap year. So I worked at Deloitte in Bucharest for 6 months. I was a consultant focusing specifically on the energy industry. And then for the other 6 months, I had planned to travel and see my friends in various countries, but then COVID happened and obviously that didn't really work out quite to plan. But yeah, that's okay. Not everything works out as you wanted to. And then I joined the INSEAD MIM in September. I was in Fontainebleau until the about mid-February. And now all of us moved to Singapore, which is where I am now.
Right. I guess in a restaurant, you should never start with the spiciest dish because then it can, spoil your taste buds for everything that follows. So that black pepper crab in Singapore, you're doing things in the right order. Just a quick question before we move to Samuel. INSEAD describes the Masters in Management as pre-experience. And of course, compared to the MBA where the average age is 28 and a half, 29, 5, 6 years of professional experience. How valuable was that experience at Deloitte to then also feel that the contributions that you're making and that your classmates are making to those discussions, are based on sort of real world examples?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you bring up an important point because I feel, and I should mention this, that quite a few of us are actually have little to no professional experience. So I have 6 months. So there are some colleagues who have 2 years, but some of us, like I think most of us came straight from undergraduate studies. So there's a lot of variety in there. It's true that, you know, having had a bit of work experience in consulting, you know, you sort of adopt a certain mindset, and it helps you, you know, through your work. I'm also a bit more familiar with some of the business concepts, but you know, the fact that each of us come from different backgrounds means we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And actually, when we start working together in teams, because that's a really big part at INSEAD, I think this is where really the diversity of all of our backgrounds comes in, and it's where the magic happens, so to speak.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that these are my 2 cents.
A lot of magic. In fact, just from Deloitte, I'll go to Leanne, who, of course, now you've since joined PwC and another of the big four coming out of school, that sort of consulting mindset. Tell us a little bit about what preceded the decision to head back and do your master's at McDonough.
Of course. So first of all, thank you for having me. Honestly, it's great pleasure just to be with you guys, meeting you all. I wish it would have been face to face, but again, um, we gotta adapt and keep moving forward. So my name is Leanne Alexian. I am Lebanese and French. Um, I'm 22 years old. I did my undergrad in the American University of Beirut. I studied psychology. And then I was quite interested in the consumer behavior, the behaviorism school of psychology, and just how can psychology impact business. So I decided to go and do my master's in management. Um, it was um, it was a great pleasure to be accepted at Georgetown. I couldn't believe it at first, but then, of course, I decided that it was the right choice, the right path, great school. So I went there. The cool thing about it is that I didn't know what I wanted to do after. I knew at least that I wanted to be in the business field, but that's about it. And thanks to the range of courses offered, I got to chat with a lot of professors there who helped me understand where I fit best and where my passions lay to some extent. And after that, I applied and got the opportunity to be with PwC. So yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, just this idea that it's an opportunity to explore so many different career paths. Now, Samuel, the decision to start with a master's in management and that sort of broader business skill set, and then take it to the next level with your business analytics masters. What had been your undergraduate background and experience before you embarked on graduate school?
Right. So actually, my undergraduate degree was in classics. So I went to Furman University in South Carolina, where I majored in classics, which is the study of Latin and Greek. And for me, coming from a Chinese background, I really wanted to sort of understand, what's the true Western tradition. If I want to understand the Western politics, I want to understand the language first, and then that language comes from Greek and Latin. So that was my sort of the reason to choose liberal arts in the first place. And just kind of coming from my Chinese background and kind of growing up in this the current sort of Chinese environment where everyone sort of focused on business. I was kind of grew up in the culture where I know I'm going to be in business, but I just didn't know. I didn't have a preference to choose what area to actually major in, so I ended up doing classics. And when I graduated from college, I talked to some of my few friends in consulting, and actually one of my really good friends from Deloitte told me that you need a business degree to get into consulting. So that's where I decided to actually get a business degree. So I went to Wake for the Master of Management program. It was Master of Arts at the time, but now I think they changed to Master of Science, but I haven't changed my diploma yet. And then, so I actually went to Deloitte. So I kind of took a gap year in between because I got a sort of internship offer at Deloitte, because that was quite important for me to kind of make the first step. Just because I sort of came from a classics background without financial analytics skills or any business understanding. So I did that, and I And during my consulting is when I really realized the power of sort of analytics, big data. I was able to do financial analysis. I was able to sort of do strategy, doing a lot of PowerPoint, a lot of sort of drafts for different policies for some of the Fortune 500 companies in China. But I didn't have the big data, the predictive analytics skills. It just so happens that Wake Forest ended up creating a business analytics program at the time. So it was sort of the natural decision for me to go back and then get another degree in business analytics to get my big data skills. And then that's the kind of the whole story of choosing these two programs. I'm
Fantastic.
pretty happy.
Well, always learning, and I guess we could discuss whether management is an art or a science. But already, just with three of you, we've got politics, philosophy, psychology, the classics. So, Juliana, are you the STEM background? What was your undergrad that then led you to going back for business school?
No, I actually don't have an engineering degree. I actually have an economics degree. But I am Brazilian, and I actually studied my undergraduate in Brazil, in a federal university in Brazil called Universidade Federal de Pernambuco. And after this university, actually, it was a fantastic university. It was a fantastic course, but it was a course that was very theoretical in economic theory. And I really liked the skills and specific knowledge that is necessary on a more practical level. And that's actually why I ended up choosing to do something else before going to the market. And even though during my undergraduate degree, I did do different internships in Brazil, I was still missing some kind of really strong information about how to manage well. And at Vlerick in Belgium, I could really look into different parts of business. I had the opportunity to look into different segments, and not only that, but have real cases, understand the reality of business, and connect with several people from different nationalities and different academic backgrounds as well. So I really appreciated that experience for that.
So in terms of the career paths that we all dream for ourselves in our early 20s, Andre was hoping before the pandemic he was going to go traveling with his friends. Samuel was saying, well, if you want to get into consulting, or you need these predictive analytics skills, and Leanne had this invaluable conversation with someone about some of the opportunities that's led to where she is today. I mean, we don't have everything worked out, right? By the time we come out of university. Did you find, Juliana, that then the year of the Masters in Management was a great way both to explore and also to give more focus to the sort of things that you really then wanted to pursue?
Well, actually, on the first level, I wouldn't say that it would focus, because the course that I followed was a Master in General Management, where I had the opportunity to look really into several departments. And so I wouldn't say that it was so much to focus, but it was very broad. But it gave me indeed a taste of each of these different departments, so I could understand better about myself, where I could fit better, and my taste would go better into an organization. And that is invaluable. It's really valuable, actually. Difficult to even put a price on, tag on, because it's I've seen so many people join organizations and start jobs and absolutely not like it after a year or two. So it's really great to be able to have a deeper understanding of each different department in all the possibilities that you can have in your career, even before you start. Yeah. Right.
Leanne, you with great modesty, you said, I couldn't believe that Georgetown offered me this place. They did. They must have loved what they saw in your application and the sort of vivacity that no doubt you brought. When you then meet your classmates, everyone seems so smart. They've all got, this incredible experience and background. Is there a sort of an anxious first moment of imposter syndrome of, should I be here? Am I in the right place?
Yes, Yes, that's a very big yes, actually. As Andre, Juliana, and Samuel all shared, we all come from different backgrounds. And I had friends with me, colleagues, classmates that actually had a bit of work experience more than me. They come from more quantitative backgrounds, I'd say, whether it's engineering or econ as well. And honestly, I was very worried that I lacked the quant skills. I was worried that the master's wasn't tailored enough to meet, let's say, the different backgrounds. But I was shocked that whether it was the masters, the people who were accepted, everything was very well organized and planned in order to meet the needs of everyone. So we got our share, like a fair share of quants, of qualitative skills, but also we got to learn a lot of soft skills. I don't know, it boosted our self-confidence. We became, I'd say, good listeners, team players. We exhibited humility. All of these things were core qualities that Georgetown really worked on delivering and made sure that we all gained in the program. And I mean, if I were to describe my classmates or just the environment I was in and why it was for the first few, I'd say, minutes only, scary, because I mean, they were all passionate, caring, fun, interesting. So if you want a refreshing combination of cutthroat driven and super friendly extroverted people, and just to fit in that environment was challenging. I was also worried that I wouldn't fit in since I'm coming as an international student, but then the ratio was, I think there was more than 70 to 75% of us who were from international backgrounds. And what I really didn't know, or what I didn't expect, is that it would take less than a few months for us to become family.
Right, that sort of family aspect. Now, Andre, you'd already had an international study experience at Warwick, and of course, INSEAD describes itself as the business school for the world. That sort of collaborative culture that Lena's describing, you know, someone said yesterday, yeah, no, none of this alpha personality, you know, we leave the sharp elbows at the door. Is that something that you've sort of witnessed, how everybody is, I mean, that they're all, you know, looking to do well in their studies, but everyone is supportive of each other?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I was very pleasantly surprised that, you know, the atmosphere isn't at all competitive, even if we're all motivated and bright individuals. You know, going into any top business school, like any of us here, I think you would expect, you know, to be, you know, there to be, you know, some sort of competition or like, but it was really not at all like that. So for example, yeah, like I mentioned before, I didn't come from a business background. So when I had a course on financial accounting, for example, in the beginning, I was a bit lost because it's something that I've never done before, and it requires a, you know, specific way of thinking about it. But actually, in my study group, I happen to have a chartered accountant, so he taught me a lot about that. And in the same way, for example, in my course, I majored in economics, so I had quite a bit of a statistics background, and it's something that some of my colleagues struggled with a bit. So I helped them in return. So it really does work in this way, and I think we learn from each other as at least as much as we learn, you know, during a class from our professors. And I think that's something that, you know, is really valuable, because I mean, not only academically you learn and you understand a lot better when someone explains it to you, as a friend, but, you know, also you know, like Lean said, you also learn more about the other people. You know, you learn how to listen, and when you put yourselves in their shoes, you know, it's really quite eye-opening. So yeah, definitely, it's a very collaborative experience, and it's really how we learn.
Well, I guess with a classics training and, you know, Homer and the Iliad, journeys of self-discovery for Ulysses and others, Samuel, a great journey for you. Clearly, you've developed those sort of predictive analytics skills that now serve you in the chief data scientist role. As you sort of reflect on the balance of core skills that have opened up these opportunities in your career, and some of those more sort of personal side, the soft skills that Andre and Lena both describing. Did you witness a similar mix?
Well, so if you were talking about within the program or within for my personal growth, I think, so coming from the business analytics program, I definitely gained the core, so the skills that you needed to actually do the work, to actually crunch the numbers, to get the data out of the database, and then throw it into different algorithms and then try to get different insights. But I would say that for a start, for you to get the right data, you need to ask the right question and sometimes even ask the right person. So that's sort of the collaborative side that comes into play. So I will also work in the US for I think 2 years, and then went back last year during the pandemic actually. But then during my time in the US, I think the diverse culture, the teamwork that the knowledge about working with different sort of personalities, especially for me coming from an international background, and then just how to work with sort of people that grew up in the United States. I think the program itself prepared me pretty well. So when I was actually doing the analytics job, not only that, sort of coming from my classics background, I'm not afraid to ask questions because, for me, I didn't grow up to be a data scientist. I didn't grow up to be a computer scientist. So I'm not afraid to ask questions. And then I think that's the strength just, for all of us coming from, I guess, not really an expert in sort of our current, we didn't major in consulting, we just studied business. But then we know we're not afraid to ask questions. And then sometimes the more questions we ask, the closer to sort of the truth we get to. So I think that was what classics prepared me. And then just kind of how to communicate well, how to actually, talk to people to get the data, or to ask them, what do you think about my analysis? That's sort of the soft skills, the leadership, the collaboration skills. And then, as I mentioned before, the core skills.
Right.
So I think
we talk about the world getting smaller. That was partly with mobility and travel. Now that the world takes place through a screen on Zoom, it's been brought to an even smaller, the rooms that we live in. But I'm just mindful, from China to North Carolina, from Romania to Singapore, from Beirut to DC. And in your case, Juliana, if you get in the car on the Paulista Avenue of Sao Paulo, an hour later, you're probably still on Paulista Avenue. You've barely moved, given the traffic in a big city in Brazil. Whereas an hour from Leuven, you can be in the Netherlands, you can be in Germany, you can be in France. You've all pursued that international experience through your studies. What do you think it brings you in terms of confidence? What even do you think employers that you've then worked with have seen in you and this ability to work across different cultures?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I mean, at Umicore, where I'm working now, we are very often, we are a company that has 10,000 employees. It's not gigantic, but it's a large company. But we are located indeed from Brazil to Japan and several operations. And it is a real added value to have experience already during my studies with so many different cultures. It is not only about that, it is also about how flexible you can think, how many ideas and perspectives you can bring just because you understand different logics. And I think that especially when you have some experience being from the Western world, having some experience in Asia, that is really mind-blowing. And I think it must be the same for the Asians amongst us when they come to the Western world. And this kind of having this kind of knowledge already so young, it is so enriching, and you can start straight away challenging boundaries, challenging perspectives, just because everybody is so used to what they are and how their contexts are when they're in just one environment. And that's from the moment that you see that something can be different elsewhere, you can start asking yourself, not only something can be different, everything can be different somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, no, I suppose what it triggers in terms of an adventurous spirit, getting out of your comfort zone, in taking that international step. All four of you have taken a path where you've done your graduate business studies very early in your career. You know, often in the US, of course, the MBA, Harvard, Wharton, the average age is sort of 27, 28 years old. Leanne, what does it bring? As you're thinking, well, you know, I could wait another couple of years, maybe then, you know, do a full-time MBA program versus, you know, going back to school now and doing the master's in management. What does it bring to have sort of accelerated that process and you know, got your business education early?
That's actually the $1 million question that is always asked when you're doing a master's in management. Are you going to pursue an MBA later, or what are you going to do? So it's quite an interesting question. In my opinion, I believe that coming from a non-business background and entering the business world, you need some sort of business knowledge or acumen that pushes you forward or distinguishes you, at least, especially with the competition now in the market. You need something that gives you this slight edge. So having a master's in management from a young age is definitely the step that I was looking for in my career. It provided me with the skills, whether they are quantitative or soft skills, that I needed to enter the consulting world. That's one thing. Another thing is that during this master's in management, it offers it's kind of still an exploration journey, because you get introduced to different courses, different professors, different, different things. So you kind of understand yourself better. For instance, for example, on the campus at Georgetown, at any given moment in time, in the business school in McDonough, there were entrepreneurs there. There were CEOs, people giving lectures, professors coming from different backgrounds. So this exposure at a young age, I believe, is a must, and provides this edge or this quality that recruiters do look for. And yeah, it's an exposure that is needed. And then again, after doing your career, if you want to go back for a PhD, a different master's, I mean, to each their own. But I do believe that the master's in management really helped me, and it's because of that that I am at PwC today.
Right, right, and the doors that it will open. Andre, of course, your decision to start INSEAD just as the pandemic was really sort of closing down a lot of campuses, but it's a school that has executive education, sort of senior business leaders. It has exec MBA students, the MBA students. What Leanne was describing at McDonough, where there's just this opportunity, people, backgrounds, experience. How does the school sort of facilitate that? Do they do that through different clubs or sort of personal interests?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's really an important part of what INSEAD is. So yeah, first of all, the clubs are quite active, and we have at INSEAD, yeah, there are clubs like professional clubs, like the consulting club, fintech club, VC club, you name it. There are also, like leisure clubs, like INSEAD, for example, is quite active for, those who like went. And I guess in France, there's no better way to do it. So yeah, there are these. There's this way. Through, because club membership is open to anybody, so their events are very, very inclusive and open. And for example, the consulting club now is running their first global case competition in partnership with McKinsey, which is something that I signed up with as part of with a team of memes. So they have events like this where you can, team up with, I chose to team up with my classmates, but you can also team up with other MBAs, for example, who are interested in doing that. So there are these opportunities as well. But also, if you reach out to, the alumni at INSEAD, everyone was very, open and eager to help. So right now, during my recruitment process and the job searching process, if I, message, I see that there's an INSEAD alumnus who, you know, works in a specific company that I'm targeting, or perhaps in a specific industry. I think 99% of people are just a LinkedIn message away. And so everyone has been, you know, super open and super supportive. So that's also another way of, you know, meeting people. And yeah, so it's nice that you can see, you know, people on campus through things like, you know, the clubs. It's true that now, given COVID, that was a bit more difficult to organize, so more things were online, but I'm hoping that very soon that will change. But also, if you reach out to alumni, then you know, get access to people who may have been in your shoes, who are, you know, at different career paths, and they can offer a different type of advice.
So while Andre is preparing his McKinsey cases, you took the step, Samuel, of course, to start your own business. You're the founder of Deep Techne, and how do you think business school then prepares you for that big step? You know, starting up your own business. You could have looked for the comfort of the employer in the early years coming out of school. Was that something that you'd always had in mind?
I think I always had in mind that when I was interviewing for jobs, right, and people ask me what's your 5-year plan, and I would say that I hope that, you know, by the end of my 5th year at this company, when I was, you know, first starting my job interview, I said I want to start my own company, and I think that really got me a lot of rejections because people don't see me as a long-term employee. But I always kind of be upfront that I do want to, you know, contribute my best to my best ability while I'm at this company, and kind of also learn from others, and then eventually sort of create something out of my own. But for me, I would have waited for another few years if this pandemic didn't happen. It just kind of accelerated my I guess you can say that my career path kind of accelerated that. But I think business school definitely. I'll tell you, just gonna be honest kind of to everyone here, what business school didn't prepare me for. I think it is, you know, how to actually collaborate, how to actually partner with different business partners, you know, outside of it, you know, actually how to secure a deal with, you know, for me, a small startup, how to secure a deal with a Fortune 500 company, how to secure a deal with a Chinese state-owned company, you know, who employs about 50,000 people, 100,000. How to do that? I think that's what the business curriculum sort of lacks. But then besides that, you know, how to actually be a leader, how to understand your own sort of financial statement, how to understand your competition's financial statement, and then sort of coming from what I'm actually doing is teaching working professionals data science, and we're designing a certification. So we want to bring, you know, we have in finance, we have CFAs, right? So we want to do a data science certificate in China, but then also for the world, hopefully. So for all those things, right, the technical stuff, the leadership stuff, the, you know, how to understand competitions, I think all those things the business school prepared me real well. But just, you know, how to actually, you know, for us, we currently only have like 4 full-time employees, and then we have a lot of sort of partners, part-time, who are like friends. But then, you know, how to actually make a deal happen with someone, you know, who makes billions in revenue, and then actually pitch to the CEOs and make that happen. I think that's something I didn't prepare for.
Right. Well, perhaps if you do ever find out how to, you know, secure a deal with a Fortune 500 company, do let me know, or even when to say no, because of course, you know, just saying yes to everything isn't. Now, Samuel, people had held up that mirror and said, what's the 5-year plan? Juliana, you're now 10 years out of school. We often focus on, okay, what happens immediately after business school, and, you know, whether PwC or other opportunities that you've all pursued. How do you think it continues to support you in the subsequent years of your career through the network, or things that you're like, yeah, I remember we used to do this, or I think about this, and that you've continued to use it with next career steps?
Right. Well, I think that the network is something that at Vlerick I was able to already start building quite early, and I like that I had a good network to start with. Actually, it was for me also quite crucial because I was moving to a completely different environment, coming from Brazil and started living in Belgium. I live in Belgium now after 10 years of my course, and it was amazing to have a basis network, which was an interesting network. So Vlerick has a very good and strong alumni community as well. And what I liked is that during the course, we had several events. We had several events internally in the sense of with our own class, with other classes, but also already with alumni. I even remember we had some kind of what is it called? Speed dating with to get to know alumni, and that was fantastic because you already get to feel how is it like to be an alumni, and you continue to be this kind of active alumni after that. And the alumni community of Vlerick has some different branches worldwide, but in Belgium is of course stronger. And in Belgium is fantastic because you still have several events to go to in several topics. And of course, you can always contact an alumni. I love that about Vlerick. Anytime, even if you never met that person in an event, if you never had any kind of contact beforehand, if you just contact an alumni, you always have an open door. And that is fantastic when you're considering other opportunities, or even when you're just looking out to understand how things work in another business similar to yours. So I really appreciate that kind of network.
If we look at the FT, that for a while was the only media that had a Masters in Management ranking, inevitably they focus on post-MIM salaries 3 years after. None of you have talked about salaries, and I hope that you're all in a sort of a safe and rewarding position. I suppose what I'm really interested in, Leanne, I'll start with you, is some of those intangibles. We could all try to calculate the return on investment if 5 years later this is what I'm earning and this is what opportunity cost and tuition. But it strikes me so often it's the less tangible things that you really feel that you've grown with or taken away from the program. What would you identify as some of the unexpected returns on the investment that you made?
So you're asking me what are some of the unexpected returns?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the most recent one, actually. I came to Dubai and I don't have anyone here. There's just one of my cousins. And I was quite worried that, I don't know anyone. And then I managed to find the Georgetown community in Dubai. And so we now organize dinners, we go out. So this alumni that Juliana and Andre both spoke about is one of the most important things. Another thing is not only the Dubai community, but again, the alumni community in Georgetown. So my colleagues, I still reach out to them. One of them is actually visiting me soon in Dubai. One thing also that was quite unexpected was the consulting club in Georgetown. So it was, since I was in the first cohort, it was mostly for MBAs, for MBA students. But I mean, the MIM program was very well welcomed. We could talk to MBA students all the time. We actually got some coaching from them. So there was this support in Georgetown that I wasn't actually expecting that I was going to find. And one of the returns that was also quite pleasantly surprising is the opportunities we were offered to engage with the school. So I got the opportunity to become a teacher assistant for my marketing professor in Georgetown. And I was helping proctor exams and explain some marketing concepts for MBA students. So this hierarchy that you usually see does not exist. It's actually just really one big family. And I know I talked a lot, but one last thing that really was very nice is that we got offered the opportunity to work with a client in Singapore for a consulting project. And that taught me a lot, how to deal with a client, how to talk, how to gain insights, ask for data, all of these things. On the personal growth, I achieved a lot of growth personally. And yeah, I'd owe it back to Georgetown.
Because of course, Samuel, I'd be turning to you for regression analysis, sort of predictive data to be able to assess, well, what do I get out of my master's degree? Same sort of question. What are the things maybe that you can't directly quantify or measure that proved to be such a rewarding part of the experience at Wake Forest?
I think because Wake Forest is such a small sort of school, it's not big in, I guess, research. It doesn't have a PhD program in business. So it's really great to have this kind of small community vibe. So when I was in New York, it's always easy to just meet up with a Wake alumnus or alumna who I never sort of talked to, because I didn't go to Wake for undergrad, but it was so easy for me to just, when I see someone on LinkedIn doing something that I'm really interested in learning more about, I'll just kind of ask them for coffee in New York, so because it's a small city, it's easy to do. And I haven't experienced this firsthand, but I've talked to some of the management students from Wake in China, and they said that one of the top executives of Walmart in China is a Wake alumna. So when one of them became, employee as their first time joining the company, as an analyst, it was so easy for her to talk to the executive, because she told the executive, hey, I didn't know you went to Wake as well. And then they end up grabbing coffee. So I think that was some of the rewarding stuff, just, surprised that you're able to kind of talk to anyone with a Wake Forest background. But I think we also, I think that's the connection part. But I think more kind of from all of us coming from a I guess, business undergrad background, it's that we do value more than just the monetary rewards. I think we do focus more on the life, the life quality than just how much money I make.
Right. And you've just identified yourself, your introduction to a Fortune 500 company like Walmart. So I guess you can take that to the next level. Andre, when you applied to INSEAD, we probably weren't even talking about COVID-19. It's been a reality in the program. As you then hold up a mirror and you think about what that has brought out in you, a sort of a flexibility, a grit and adaptability, there's so many characteristics which ultimately employers, as we look at the new normal, whatever that is going to be, those are going to be qualities that they're looking for. What has it revealed about yourself studying through the pandemic?
I guess I never really thought about it in that way. But I guess, it's a very interesting question. Just because, I think having gone through it, I kind of internalized it as like the new normal, so it doesn't feel as strange anymore. Actually, after having classes on Zoom for a bit, it felt a bit strange going back to the classroom. Obviously, I much prefer it. There's no doubt. But I guess for me, what was really like how do I describe, like, what was really like most surprised, or what I really liked the most was this like community atmosphere that was created between us, because we were all going through the same difficulties, the uncertainties, the frustrations that we can't have like a normal student experience. I mean, in France at least, until from October onwards, the national lockdown was quite tough. Like, many things were closed, but we just found other ways to to socialize, to interact with each other. We did a lot of things over Zoom. We did like some sort of like quiz competitions between us, quiz nights, things like that. Fortunately, actually, we were also able to go to on campus from January onwards. So like October, November, December, which is my second semester P2, we were fully online. But then we slowly transitioned to going back to campus because INSEAD, they took some really good measures. So the government allowed them to start operating in person. But I guess it revealed like sort of resilience, I would say, like an adaptability. And I think it really emphasized this community spirit that we all had, supporting each other when things sometimes got tough. So I think it would be that.
Right.
Like I said,
And of
it's a
course,
bit of a tricky question to answer because
yeah, no, it's great. You know, Lena, I guess, is the panelist who's the psych major and even maybe thinks about personal brand within the marketing TA role that you had. But, you know, clearly these are qualities and characteristics that, you know, employers know that they need as we've navigated this and whatever the future holds. There was a comment yesterday, and Juliana, it's not the first time. In fact, the panelists said, I know this sounds like a cliche, but honestly, it was the best year of my life. They're really enthusiastic. And I said, you know, we couldn't explain why the other years weren't the best years, but you know, she said there was so much that was packed into this one year, that, you know, personal discovery and learning, skills that we developed, all of these activities. Do you think about your Masters in Management experience at Vlerick as one of the best years of your life? And if you do, why?
Well, I absolutely do think so. Until that moment, it was the best year I had. But I think that year opened so many doors that it just allowed the years after to be even better. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's very important to think about that as an entry door to something new, to more opportunities in your life. And why I think that was an amazing year. So to start with, I will not talk about how amazing all the other years are, otherwise I would speak for hours. But for the first year at Vlerick, for me, it was a very intense year. So I absolutely agree with the comment that you mentioned. And it was, first of all, of course, it is intense in terms of just hours. It's 9 to 5, it's every day. So you quickly become family with your classmates. You quickly forget there is a world outside your school, because you live that year so intensively with these people that you make very strong bonds with them. You make strong friendships, and you do everything together. So, you know, after class, you go have dinner with them, you go have drinks with them, you go spend the weekend with them. So you don't even want to see other people anymore. And this intensity is not only on classrooms and on this kind of events, but it's also because you have, you know, assignments together. You have a lot of events that are organized by the school, or you have, for example, like I remember we had a week where we were just managing a business together, and we had to make all parts of the business and all plannings and all sales and all the product design and so on. So, and you want to do it well, not just because of the grades you get, because you start getting so passionate about doing these things together with these people that you work so well together. So everything adds to each other, and it makes it amazing for that. So yeah, it's. I also remember another week that we had a kind of business game where you know, we had to, each person had one specific company, and we had to compete with each other in the market for a week. That was also very intense and amazing. I mean, we could go home at 10 in the evening, but we chose to stay until 3 in the morning, and sometimes even not sleep in school and just keep going, just because it was so much fun and so exciting to have that experience and make the best of it, right?
The caretakers on the campus, or you know, the security, oh, those students, they're still playing that business game upstairs. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. When are they going to go home? I'm sure.
Never.
McDonough is another great campus building that you have at Georgetown. So, you know, you've talked about family. You've talked about sort of collaborative support, you know, just that learning journey. And I do like the idea, Juliana, that, well, it's a great year, and hopefully it's a year that is a building block for lots and lots of great years to come. I wish that for all of you. So, you know, here the 4 of you from 4 great schools. And this year, with the economic sort of downturn, volatility, they're all seeing record application numbers to get into business school. It just makes sense for a lot of people at the moment. So if we're going to help our viewers to secure their place, Leanne, I'm going to start with you, because, you know, you're like, I couldn't believe that they chose me. What would your advice be as you look to sort of show that you've got the skill sets, the value system, perhaps just the determination and the attitude, to really thrive in the McDonough environment. What would your advice be to any applicant?
So I'm going to start this with maybe a bit, maybe a cliche answer, but honestly, the answer is always no if you don't ask. So apply. Don't never expect that you were not good enough for the school or you'd never get accepted. Just go into the effort, write your recommendation letters, get these, write your personal statement, and move forward with the application. You never know what the outcome is going to be. So that's as a step one. And that as a step two, it would be just be yourself while interviewing. When they ask you about long-term goals or short-term goals, it doesn't always have to be entrepreneurship. It doesn't always have to be consulting. Just be the person you are. They're going to see your values, your background, and everything you've done is valuable to them, even if it was just a small game that you organized or a volunteering experience. It reflects who you really are. So just be yourself. And to give a more, if you want, academic advice, it would be put yourself in the real world. Students do focus on just their GPAs and to be on the honor list. I mean, sure, all of that is cool. It's great. It's amazing. It's going to secure you good jobs in the future, but just try to engage in part-time jobs, internships, co-ops, in your undergrad specifically. It will teach you the right soft skills to negotiate, to talk, to be extroverted, not be intimidated by other people, because you're going to meet a lot of great people in high positions, senior people, and you really need to know how to hold your ground in front of them. So that's my piece of advice, and just commit to your passion, be you, and you'll make it in life.
Thank you. Samuel, you applied to two distinct programs. One was the broader management program. One was specific on sort of business analytics. So is there a difference in those applications and perhaps then the skill sets that you need to show to the admissions office over here and then the admissions office over here?
I think the general theme is probably the same, but then you definitely need different skill set. I think the most important thing is to show your passion for different things. I think that for the WIG team, the admission team, I'm pretty sure that I'm guessing it, but I think that they understand that your interest will change, will evolve. As Leanne said, that you might come in want to become a financial analyst, but you end up becoming a consultant. You end up becoming an operation analyst. You never know, because once you enroll in the program, you end up learning more about different subjects, and you talk to different friends and people in the school, you end up developing different interests. So I think it's really about just kind of show your passion that you think, for me, when I was applying my second program to the business analytics, I told them that, after my job at Deloitte, that's when I actually gained the firsthand knowledge or insight that the big data thing is really a thing, because I didn't put too much thoughts into it when I was applying for the management program, because all I wanted to do is become a consultant. Sounds kind of weird because we have a few consultants here, but that was my dream, is becoming a consultant at a Big Four consulting company. But then I realized I wanted to do more in my life, I guess different things. So I end up doing, so just kind of show your passion. What have you done for analytics? What is your personal understanding of analytics? And I think during the application process, it's a true opportunity for you to kind of reflect upon yourself, and then just kind of reflect, echo on what Leanne said, that just kind of show who you really are, because this is probably the best opportunity for you to kind of understand what are my interests, and then where do I want to take my career after this program.
Yeah, and I love the idea that you had this short-term goal that you achieved, and then you're like, but there's even more, and how you just keep opening up those doors and pursuing those plans. Andre, INSEAD traditionally has one of the biggest applications, with all of those different essays and video components and everything else. As you went through that, now on the other side, successfully admitted to INSEAD, what would your advice be to future applicants?
I think the first thing that I want to emphasize, and this is something that Lina really said as well, throughout the application, like in every part, the video interview, the essay questions, just be yourself, And you need to tell like the business school that you're applying to, what your story is and what your motivation for applying is. I think if you have it in the back of your mind while doing your application, that the purpose of this is, for them to get to know you as a person, how you think, what experiences you have, what you learn from those experiences. I mean, if you have this in the back of your mind when you're doing your application, I think it will help you, um, focused on the right things, and choose what you want to share with them. So this would be one thing. Be yourself, and tell them what your story is and what your motivation is, and why you are unique. um, Second of all, I guess something that I think many people are slightly apprehensive about is the GMAT. At INSEAD, at least, and I think in many business schools, it is a compulsory part of the admissions process, and it can be quite a big source of stress for me. At least it was, because I was doing it at the time when I was working for Deloitte, so it was quite a busy and intense period. But I should say that, first of all, it just takes some practice. So if you put in the hours, and how many really is up, it's up to you. Really depends on you, what your personal strengths are, more quant, more verbal. There's no secret recipe, there's no one way of doing it. But I should say, that is only one part of the application. So for example, if you're a bit worried that your GMAT score is not as high as you would have wanted it to be, but if you have some really interesting work experience or some volunteering experience, that's equally valuable, if not sometimes even more valuable. So really, the GMAT, yeah, it's a number. It's scary because it looks objective, and to a certain extent it is, but it is just one part. There's so much more to the application than the GMAT. And I think a final piece of advice would be to just get in touch with the school. At INSEAD, at least the recruitment team is very happy to help you and to guide you through the process, answer any questions you may have. For example, when I was applying, I got a really tailored a session on improving my CV, which is something that when applying to other business schools, I didn't get. So it's definitely worth asking for and reaching out, to alumni. Be that in my case, it was MBAs, because there wasn't a main program yet, but now we're here, so you can get in touch with me, with any of my colleagues, and we'll all be happy to answer your questions. And I'm sure it's the case for all the panelists here. So these are my three main pieces of advice.
Well, on average, there have been about 20,000 people watching these videos, so your email inboxes might suddenly be flooded. Thanks, Andre, on behalf of all of the panelists.
There's, I think, like 90 something of us, so feel free to...
Yeah, you can share that. If you each do 100 each, then you'll be okay. Juliana, just a final word from you. In the week with International Women's Day, we had an interview with the Dean at Vlerick Business School, Marianne de Bruyn, who maybe was teaching one of the marketing classes. And it's just a lovely lesson in humility and how you sort of pursue your dreams. Do you feel that there's a place for that in the application? We've talked about that authenticity. This is my story. It's not what they want to hear. It's me sharing. What's your advice?
Yeah, well, indeed, I think it matches a lot what Lina and Andre said already. It's very important to be yourself. If you would say what they want to hear, if you imagine if everybody was going to prepare to say what they want to hear, all the applications will look the same. Can you imagine how dull, boring, and how idiotic you would sound like? Because they would have heard that whatever you're saying for the 20th time that same day. Imagine if you are an interviewer, you don't want to be then. I mean, it is very important to indeed be yourself. And I think if I can add to that, you have to show confidence, prepare to show confidence in the interviews. It is very important, because when you show what you believe, if you say what you believe, whatever it is, there is no right answer in the world. We live in a world full of diversity. We live in a world where everybody has so many different ideas. So it is important to show that what you believe, be true to yourself, and show that with confidence. People always like to hear things when they're said with confidence, regardless of what it is.
Well, I have to say, I love an hour you're sharing with bright, modest, talented, brilliant young people that have found their voices, that have that sort of confidence without attitude. You're wonderful, wonderful ambassadors. I think I said before we started our recording, hey, there must be a reason why the schools, asked you to share this event at Center Court, and I can see why. Thank you to all of you, to Andre and Samuel at now midnight in Singapore and China. Thank you to Lena from Dubai, Juliana from Belgium. It was great to have you with us for the last hour. Thank you for also agreeing to answer some of the emails that people are going to no doubt reach out with. But thanks to all four of you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you
for having us.